This is your Weather Extreme video for Sunday, July the 29th. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters. And before we leave the topic of isolated showers, thought we'd take a look at the radar from yesterday afternoon. This was around 5:45. And just to give you an idea, in case you didn't happen to see radar, that's what some isolated storms look like. And those showers along the Tennessee River Valley were along a frontal boundary that is moving through right now. There's a look at Coleman, and we got a little bit of fog in a few spots. And just a beautiful shot as we look out over the Tombigbee River down at Demopolis. The surface pattern is composed primarily of high pressure across the eastern half of the country, and along with that, we do have this weak front that is moving through. Now, the front's pretty hard to find, but if you look closely at the current conditions this morning, you can see that the dew points in the Tennessee River Valley are in the upper 60s, while the dew points across Birmingham down to Montgomery are in the lower 70s. Sorry about that. And so there's a little bit of contrast there, and that's along that line, and that line is moving, or that frontal boundary is moving to the south. In the upper atmosphere, we're going to be dealing with a northwesterly flow pattern, and here's the tricky part about northwesterly flow patterns is you get disturbances in those flow patterns, and you may end up with a cluster of thunderstorms developing up around Kansas City, or even Iowa, that ends up down in our neck of the woods 12 hours later. So we're going to have to be watching the northwesterly flow pattern. Unfortunately, it looks like this pattern may be changing over the next week into next weekend and back to a hotter pattern. QPF still indicating, of course, daily showers pretty much all of this week as we continue with mostly a summertime weather pattern. Storm Prediction Center for day one outlooking a slight risk along parts of North Dakota. And just to the west of the Great Lakes. In day two, slight risk, or C-text, and now moves into the Great Lakes area and then back into Montana. And the tropics remain quiet. That cloudiness just off the African coast has become a little less organized than what we saw yesterday. All right, we're going to stick primarily with the upper air pattern because underneath that, we're going to just be seeing isolated showers. So there's a look at the pattern for today. And, of course, we've got little disturbances. You can see one moving into northeastern Iowa there. And, again, we're going to have to be watching these because they may produce these large-scale convective complexes, mesoscale convective complexes, and that can end up affecting us. The northwesterly flow pattern continues into Monday, and again, I think for the most part today and tomorrow, we see slightly lower dew points. Therefore, the heat won't feel quite as bad. But again, by Tuesday, we're probably back into that higher humidities, and we stay with the northwesterly flow pattern with the ridge over along the eastern slopes of the Rockies and the trough over the eastern half of the country along the east coast. Now, we're beginning to see some changes here as we get into Wednesday as a strong trough comes into the western Canada, and that trough, as you see, is beginning to beat down the ridge just a little bit, and as it beats down the ridge, it also moves the trough off to the east. So we're ending up changing our northwesterly flow pattern. But again, as you see here on Thursday, there is a little bit of a disturbance in the vicinity of about western Kentucky, and that could help to produce a mesoscale convective complex. And the models are not good, whether it's European or the GFS. They're not good at these mesoscale complexes. So the fact that the GFS is even indicating something in Missouri is actually a pretty good bet here. So I mean, a pretty good indication. And we're going to have to be watching for that all this coming week. Now, the northwesterly flow pattern does change by Friday, and again, that strong trough in southwestern Canada is beating down the ridge, and unfortunately that means that the changes are coming about. The ridge beats down on Saturday, but so does the trough. Now, the trough is still weakly in there, but certainly changing. So we're not looking good because that means the ridge is likely to build in stronger now as we head into Sunday. And then in the long range, going out into voodoo country, we're definitely seeing some changes with a trough on the west coast and building the ridge over the eastern half of the country. And that certainly could mean some additional heat for the eastern half of the country. And we hope not, cautiously optimistic that that won't happen. You know how voodoo country is when it comes to the model guidance. Well, that'll do it for the Weather Xtreme video for today. Stay tuned to the blog for additional information. James Spann is on vacation this coming week, getting a little time off. I'm going to be filling in for the Weather Xtreme videos and posting primarily in the morning. And my goal is to have it there by about 8 o'clock or so, but depends on how long it takes to produce them. In the meantime, I hope your Sunday is a good one, and Godspeed.
Thank you for trusting us to be your #1 source for news
in all of Central Alabama.
in back-to-back ratings periods.
More people watched ABC 3340
than any other station in Birmingham.